If you think nothing is happening with XRP right now, then pay attention. Over $1.2 billion in whale sales, ETF rumors, ERL-USD integration into real-world assets, and all of this just before the Threshold conference and the ETF decision in October. This could be the catalyst or the last dip before things really take off. But a quick disclaimer, my channel is not financial advice, it's purely for informational purposes. I know what it feels like to hold XRP. For years you've been hearing that the big comeback is coming, but what actually came were new whale sales, courtroom dramas, and price pressure. Still, the latest news shows something exciting, and that's exactly what we're going to look at together today. What's really behind these movements, and whether XRP is becoming institutionally relevant again. But first, let's take a look at the technology and the fundamentals. Ripple is technologically solid, even though there were no new P updates last month. The focus is clearly on compliance and the integration of the stablecoin through RLUSD. It's already being used in pilot projects for tokenized deposits and repo trades. This means Ripple is connecting blockchain with the traditional financial system, not just through new features, but through real-world usage on a billion-dollar scale. Let's move on to the community and adoption. The community is more active now than it has been in a long time. Engagement for XRP is exploding on X. There are over 1,000% more large transactions of over 500,000. Plus, there are ongoing discussions about whale dumps and ETF rumors. And the on-chain data shows over 1.5 million XRP have been moved, most of it institutionally. In addition, there are new partnerships with Bahrain Fintech Bay and over 100 financial institutions that are onboarding XRP for lending, stablecoins, and cross-border payments. In short, Ripple is becoming useful again, not just hyped. Let's move on to the narrative and market sentiment. XRP stands between two worlds, on the one hand, in the shadow of AI and Layer 2 hype, but on the other hand, right in the middle of trends like RWAs or institutional settlements. That is extremely powerful in the long term. Influencers and news sites are divided. Some warn of further drops, while others see October as the turning point. And to be honest, the catalysts support that view. Ripple's Whale Conference, ETF decision, ISO 20022 integration, all within just a few weeks. But now let's move on to the risks and the market structure. Because the whale sell-offs are real. Over $50 million are being sold off daily. Naturally, this has massively pushed the price down. Still, the news also shows the net flows and the accommodation by institutions, while retail investors are more likely to sell. That's classic smart money behavior. When the loudest voices sound bearish, they buy. And when they're bullish, they sell. Now let's talk about this. What new news and catalysts are coming up in the next weeks and months? What's specifically on the agenda now? First, ETF decision between October 18th and 15th. That could, of course, bring massive volume once again. Second, Ripple's Whale Conference with a focus on new RWA partnerships. Third, Swift ISO 20022 integration from the end of October to the end of November. That could finally bring Ripple into institutional payments. If that's communicated clearly, XRP could actually become the first regulatory bridge between blockchain and the traditional financial system. So, what's the conclusion? In the short term, it remains volatile, but the foundation and adoption are growing. Especially if the institutional narrative returns, that could, of course, be extremely strong for XRP. The next 3 weeks are definitely quite crucial for XRP, especially if XRP wants to be perceived as serious infrastructure. Now let's take a look at the chart analysis for XRP together. Hello and welcome to my chart analysis of XRP. First of all, just briefly at the beginning, I use TradingView and a custom developed indicator that basically shows me whether we're in the overbought zone. In other words, for example, when a lot of people are buying, then it's shown with a red dot, which for me is a sign that it might be time to take profits. Or the other way around, when a lot of people are selling and we clearly enter oversold areas down here, it's marked with a big green dot. For me, that's a moment where I might consider entering, and small dots basically indicate a trend reversal. So what's the current situation with XRP? We had this massive sell-off here when the tariffs came in, which was of course totally, well, let's say unbelievable if you think about it. From around here, that was about 58%. If you had entered down here, you could have really, let's say, made quite a bit if you think about it. Now that's another 108%, which is just incredible. In any case, right now, a green dot appeared here, but that was at the point when the trend reversal happened, of course. Now we're seeing a bit more of a bullish trend reversal again. Still, I would remain cautious. As you can see, we haven't reached the absolutely oversold area yet. But let's see how the market develops from here. I would be cautious at the moment. It's possible that we push upwards now, but then get sold off again here, and the market makers ultimately take advantage of that. So if you want to know when I would enter, then check out the Zenix Elite. By the way, you also get access to the Zenix indicator if you're in the Zenix Elite, but you can also just buy it separately. And besides that, there are many other things in the Zenix Elite that might be interesting for you. For example, I do market updates, I have a ranking list, Zenix ranking with over 100 altcoins that I've analyzed, so you actually know which are the best altcoins among all the many altcoins out there. How else are you supposed to keep track of it all? But feel free to check it all out for yourself. I'll display a QR code here so you can access the app, or you can check it out in your browser. There you can get all the information and make your own decision. And by the way, if you want to see the complete analysis of XRP now, with all the price forecasts, can XRP really reach $48? All of that is here. Have fun and see you in the next video.